And folks who are watching this after the fact, please know that if you have any questions or you have any comments or anything like that, feel free to comment at the video link, or you can also reach out to me. I'm really easy to find on Facebook and Instagram. So those are places. I also have a website, www.irisanya.com. So that will be where you can find me. I'm always excited to talk about magic and Aphrodite and all of the things related to love and heart. And welcome to one of the many altars that are devoted to Aphrodite. I put her birth of Venus right here, and I have, other way, nice shell and pearl. Always lovely to set the space for deities when we're talking about them. All right, let us get started. So, for folks who don't know who I am, I'm Irisanya Moon. I am a Moon Books author, and I just recently released a Pagan Portals called Reclaiming Witchcraft, which is on the reclaiming tradition of witchcraft that I am a part of. And in a couple of weeks, not even, I have a book coming out on Aphrodite through the Pagan Portals series. Aphrodite Encountering the Goddess of Love and Beauty and Initiation. So, and that's what we're going to chat about today. So, like I said, my name is Irisanya Moon. My pronouns are she, her. I live on the colonized land of the Southern Pomo, the Coast Miwok, Great Rancheria, and the Wapo, or what is known today as Santa Rosa, California, United States of America. I have been a practicing witch for, over 20 years. I started out as an eclectic solitary, sort of looking at all the things, and then I sort of moved into, found magically the spiral dance, and started to get into reclaiming witchcraft, and actually moved out to California about 10 years later, and realized that reclaiming was not only a tradition in a book, but it was also an actual tradition with real people that lived in my area. So through magical circumstances, I got a chance to go to California Witch Camp in 2008, and that's where I met my community that I'm now a part of. From there, I went to the witch camp, and then in 2009, I started helping to plan public rituals. And then in 2010, I started teaching in the tradition. We have a series of core classes that folks teach, and also things that are interesting to us that are related and magical and rooted in activism. So one of the things that's important to know about me is that, yes, I'm a priestess, yes, I'm a teacher, yes, I write, all of that. But what's also important is to know that it's not just a Bay Area thing in San Francisco, but I've also been teaching around the world because there are reclaiming groups all over the world. I've been really fortunate to teach classes and camps across the United States of America, from San Francisco to Baltimore. And then also I've taught a couple of times in British Columbia, Canada. And I've also taught near Melbourne in Australia, and also in the UK a couple of times. Actually, it was last year. So, and also I made the commitment to this reclaiming tradition, and I am an initiate as of 2014. So, but let's talk about Aphrodite. So, I have been working with Aphrodite since 2014, and doesn't seem like a long period of time when I think back, but it feels like we've been together forever. And with every moment and every experience that I share with her, my heart just continues to widen and open and become more vulnerable and more resilient as a result of all the work that we do together. One thing that would be helpful to know is that I hold working with gods and deity possibly a little bit different than other folks. I look at working with deity as forming and building a relationship. So I don't have this patriarchal view of the gods being up here and me being down here. I have us on sort of an even playing field. I believe that I am divine and that Aphrodite is divine, and so thus we can commune in that way. But like I said, relationships are reciprocal. And so while I might do offerings, I might do devotional work. You know, there's also, I get a lot out of that too from her, often in, you know, pieces of wisdom, in signs, in magical experiences I can't describe. So that's the way I work with the gods. It's not supplication. It is an allyship and how we can help each other. So, and to be clear, I do really listen to what she says. So if that doesn't come across, then it should. I talk about this in the book, but I wanted to sort of say it here too, how I sort of found my relationship with Aphrodite. So Aphrodite was a god I swore I would never work with. I swore up and down because I was into the tough, the deep gods, the, you know, Hecate and Caradwyn, and, you know, I was working with the folks that were going to be challenging and, you know, really show my shadow and all of those, you know, the deep magic. And I thought of Aphrodite as being kind of fluffy bunny and sort of, you know, kind of like the Barbie-esque sort of way that she's portrayed a lot of the times. And so I didn't really take her seriously, and really kind of pushed her aside. And whenever we would have a chance to work with her in our tradition, I would just be kind of like, I mean, it's fine, but what does she have to teach me? I mean, love is love, right? But if anyone's ever tried to do the work of self-love or the work of love in relationship, one knows that it can be quite challenging, quite difficult, and quite confronting. So somehow, in some way, I started to feel that Aphrodite was somebody I should at least explore. Like, I'd written her off for so long that I figured that, you know, let's give her a chance. And I happened to be at this large pagan convention that no longer exists called Pantheacon, which took place in San Jose, California in the US. And it was over Valentine's Day weekend. So there were a lot of, you know, rituals and offerings and things like that. They were all about love and Aphrodite. And so I decided, I'm going to go. I'm going to see how this goes. You know, I'm feeling kind of lovey. It's, you know, it's the weekend and all of this. I'm with a bunch of really great witches and pagans and magic makers. And so I ended up going to this really large ritual that was put on by this coven that is no longer around. But they sort of made it fun and play, and we were doing this large devotional dance to Aphrodite, and they were playing the song Get Lucky by Daft Punk, if anybody knows that. And so it was this really kind of raucous sort of like dancing for her and sending our energy and connecting with her and all of that. And I just found that to be just really joyous in a way that I hadn't experienced. As someone who's very serious and steady, you know, joy and all that stuff is sometimes something I put on the back burner. So, but I went to this, and throughout one of the experiences, we kept getting these little like pieces of, I don't want to say trinkets, but like little items that were sort of related to Aphrodite. So we got, there was a little apple, there was an oracle card, and everybody in the room got these gold plastic beads, you know, the ones you see like from Mardi Gras and things like that. And everyone in the room got one because we were all priestesses of Aphrodite in this ritual, as far as I remember. And the priestesses were going around and giving them to all the people, and there must have been 100 people from what I remember. And at some point, you know, I got my beads. I was like, oh, this feels really good, and this is really great. And then suddenly a priestess came up to me and gave me another set. And it doesn't sound like a big deal. But in that moment, I was the only person in that room that had two sets. And I felt something shift. I felt, I don't know, we could call it a call, we could call it some sort of, you are here, I see you sort of experience. And from that moment on, I was sort of like, okay, I'm going to see what you have and what we have for each other, and let's try out this relationship. And there were other experiences over that weekend too that were really lovely, and I don't remember them as well as that one. And then later on, or possibly before, time is funny, I actually took a class on Aphrodite with a couple of beloveds of mine. One of them actually is one of my initiators. And we spent 3 nights working with Aphrodite. So the first night was sort of getting to know her, reading some poetry, sort of learning about different offerings and things like that. And the second night, I think we wrote love letters to ourselves, which was very beautiful. I feel like we read them in a mirror, maybe. So that was really deep and really fulfilling for me. And then on the last night, we did a practice that we often do in reclaiming called aspecting. And for folks who don't know what that is, aspecting is it's possessory work. So it is inviting the God, the deity, to enter your body and to see with your eyes and to speak with your mouth, feel with your heart, and possibly move with your body. So you become a vessel for the deity, and this is a great devotional act. And it is one of the most powerful that I've gotten to experience. And on this night, we were paired up, and I was actually paired up with a person who's one of my initiators. And beforehand, we had given questions. So the person who was not aspecting the divine would be able to ask those questions of the person who was. So when aspecting, you basically at least this is the way I do it. I teach it in a much larger context than this, but I can do it simply too, is that basically I push out a lot of the parts of me that are me, and to make space for the energy of the divine to come into me. And so I did that, and I invited Aphrodite in. And this was the first time I'd ever done that. And while I can't remember all of the experience because it was a while ago, and these experiences are so fleeting and so in the present moment, all I know is that I felt a silk, a grace, some sort of softness in me that I'd never knew existed. And she had a lot of things to say in response to the questions that I had offered. And I remember those. And I remember her laughing at the questions and sort of telling the person asking them that, this human needs to have more fun. And she got me. And so I had this beautiful, deep experience. And again, it's just really okay, Aphrodite, you have something to tell me or to share with me. And so the experience ends, you sort of bring yourself back and you tell the gods to go on their way. And the priestess I was with said, you need to watch out for Aphrodite because she likes to linger in bodies. She likes to linger in the tendons, and she likes to hang out. Now, usually with aspecting, it's very easy. You do it and then you're done. Because in our tradition, we say body trumps spirit, so it's always a consensual experience. It's not the gods ride you, although that does happen too, but that's for another time. So I had to leave that class. It was the last class. I had this experience. It was amazing. And I had to drive home, which is a pretty good distance. And all I remember is not quite being me and singing songs to the ocean on the way home, the whole way. And the next few days, I felt myself just feeling her still present. I mean, not taking up occupancy, but really sort of lingering and sort of saying this is the start of something, and are you ready? And I said yes. And so thus began a lot of altar building, a lot of reading about Aphrodite, a lot of singing those songs, really cultivating heart practices, things like that, dressing a little bit more sensually, and all of that, which, makes it sound like she is just love and beauty, and that's really it. But the other part of, my book title is that she's also, for me, a goddess of initiation. And I hold that because she challenges me to look at the parts of me that I don't love. She challenges me to look at the parts where I'm holding back love from others. And she challenges me to continuously look in the mirror and to love what I see. So if that's not initiation work, I don't know what is. So something you should also know about me, and especially if you decide to pick up the book, is that I'm not an academic. I'm not. I I did some research into things to know about Aphrodite that folks who don't know her might be really interested in, and I definitely wanted to list that, and I definitely listed some of the texts and some of the sources that I got information from. But I really focus on building authentic relationships with gods. She's not the only one I work with, so it's really about finding what seems true for our relationship. And sometimes that doesn't align with books. Sometimes it does. I often would start off with things that I would read and then sort of change it to suit me and to suit what I felt was true. So I think that I want to say that because one of the things I think is really important in working with gods and working with deities is that there is no one way, in my opinion, there's no one way to have a relationship with gods. I feel that everybody has a different flavor, version, interaction, just as, you have different friends who have different, you have different relationships with. Some of them you tell them everything. Some of them you don't tell them everything. Some of them they're really about hearing about this. And some of them are the goofy ones that you just have fun with. And so, another thing that I would love to say before I sort of move into a little bit of a magic-y practice, because as I said, I feel like working with the gods is about experience. It's about figuring out what's true for you, not necessarily what's the truth, because it's a personal thing. In the book, I talk about the different lenses through which her stories are often told, and I think there are a lot of ways in which she is diminished because she's a woman, and or at least presents as a woman. I'm not entirely convinced that the divine is gendered, but that's another story. One of the things you'll notice is that I talk about some of her stories and the different interpretations and things like that, and how that got changed when the patriarchy came in. And I think all of that really does inform a richer experience. And I hope that it is helpful for you too. So for folks watching this, what I'd like to offer is actually a little bit of an experience. And one of the ways that I really build relationships with deities, with the divine, with various parts of my magical practice is through the process of trance. And so trance, for me, as I teach it and have learned it in the reclaiming tradition, is not a guided meditation. It is more of an open experience. So it's an invitation, an open-ended invitation to experience what you experience, and without any sort of goal. I'll definitely say things that will sort of push in a certain direction, but what happens at that point is really up to you. And all of it is right, and all of it is great, and all of it is valuable. So at some point during this, I'm going to sort of have a space where it's just quiet. And that's intentional. So don't think that this shut off. Because that's the moment where you're just going to experience what you experience, whether you experience things visually, whether you get like an energetic sense, whether you get, colors, whether you get, I don't know what your experience is, because here's the thing about trance is that it's all different. It's yours, it's unique, and I honor that. One of the things we say in the reclaiming tradition is that, you're your own spiritual authority in community. So we need no one to define the divine for us. So wherever you are, whatever you're doing, I invite you to get comfortable. I invite you, if you're sitting in a chair, if you're sitting on the ground, if you're laying down, all of those things are great. But wherever you are, just find a way to get comfortable. I'm going to grab a sip of water. And just allow your body to begin to relax. Just allow yourself to be present in this moment without needing to change anything, without needing to fix anything, without needing to be anything more than who you are. You might choose to close your eyes, and you might not. For folks who don't want to necessarily close their eyes, I invite you to just soften your gaze, maybe just, softly look down and away from the computer screen. Goodness knows we're doing a lot of that. So maybe you can give yourself a little bit of a break. So wherever you are, however you are, I invite you to just notice your breath. And just notice where it is today. Notice where it is in this moment. You don't have to start doing deep breaths unless it feels good. You can just allow it to be what it is. Maybe it's a little tight today. Maybe you just really do need a really big breath, maybe the biggest one you've taken all day. And if you need that, do that. And in this space, in this moment, I invite you to allow your awareness to begin to drop down your body. That awareness is that thinking part, that knowing part, that gotta figure it out part. Just allow that to drop down. Allow it to drop down, 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 all the way down to your feet, to your toes, and back to your ankles and your calves, and all the way up to your knees. And just notice what's living there right now. And allow anything that doesn't need to be here today to sink, to drop, to fall away. And I invite you to allow your awareness to travel up to the space of your thighs, up to the space of your hips, to the space of your pelvic bowl, and just notice what's living there right now, today. And allow anything that doesn't need to be here to sink, to drop, to fall away. And now allow that awareness to travel up to the space below your belly button, to the space above your belly button, up to the space of your rib cage, and up to the space of your big, beautiful heart. And again, just notice what's there, what's living there right now. And allow anything that doesn't need to be here today to sink, to drop, to fall away. And just allow your awareness to travel up the space of your arms, maybe moving from fingertip to shoulder or shoulder to fingertip. And just noticing what's there right now, what lives there right now. And allow anything that doesn't need to be there to sink, to drop, to fall away. And allow that awareness to move again to the space of your clavicle, up the space of your throat, and even up to the space of your jaw, maybe moving that a little bit, because sometimes we hold tension there. And just notice what's there, what's living there right now. And just allow anything that doesn't need to be there to sink, to drop, to fall away. And allow your awareness to rise again through the space of your cheeks and your eye sockets and your ears, all the way up to your forehead, your third eye, and to the top of your head, that space that was soft when you were born. And just notice what lives there right now. And allow anything that doesn't need to be here to sink, to drop, to fall away. And from this space, from this soft, open space, from this soft, safe space, I invite you to scan your body once more to see if there's anything else that doesn't need to be here, and allow it to easily, so easily, sink, drop, fall away. And from this space, I invite you to widen your awareness. I invite you to widen that witch's eye, that magical eye, that knowing wisdom that can stretch and expand and emerge and widen as far as feels good for you today. Notice how it might feel like an opening. Notice how it might feel like a stretch. And notice how it begins to invite in a wider experience. Notice how it calls out to you to begin to move down a path. Now, I can't tell you what this path looks like, so take a look. What do you see? What do you sense? What do you know of a place that calls your name, that invites you to take step after step forward, that maybe invites you to float a little bit more forward, or maybe you fly above. But know that you are safe on this path, and that the path is leading you to exactly where you need to be today, to a place of a wide open heart. Maybe you begin to notice things that make your heart sing. Maybe you begin to hear the rush of water, the crash of ocean, the pouring of rain. Step by step, move by move, moment by moment. And I invite you to go to the place that calls to you. Maybe you see the ocean. Maybe you see a shimmer in the distance. Maybe the outline of Aphrodite begins to call to you, to beckon you, to whisper to come closer. Or maybe it's something completely different. No matter what you experience, no matter what you see or feel or sense, know that it is the exact right thing for you. And I invite you to just be where you are. This place of heart, this place of opening, this place of maybe meeting Aphrodite for the first or 100th time. But allow yourself to be in that place, to be in that space, and open up to whatever you need to know. Maybe you have a question. Maybe you have an offering. Maybe this is just a moment for you to have deep, deep rest. But be here for a moment. Arrive exactly as you are. And knowing that we can't stay in this place forever, I invite you to start to do what you need to do to bring this to a close. Maybe you need to give thanks. Maybe you need to ask one more question. Maybe you are given something that you need to hold on to. Do what you need to do. Say what you need to say. And trust that you will remember all that you have experienced. And as you begin to close and begin to feel complete with your experience, I invite you to turn and go back to the path that you took to get here, following the way that you know well because you've already been there. Maybe going back this path, seeing things a little differently. Maybe new things emerge. Maybe new things catch your eye. And continue to travel until you reach the space where you began. That space where you widen your awareness, you widen that witchy eye, you widen that magical eye. And maybe begin to bring that wideness back to yourself. Begin to come back to that space at the top of your head, that space that was soft when you were born. And allow that awareness to begin to travel back. Travel down the space of your forehead, your eye sockets, the third eye, your ears, your jaw. Traveling back down your throat, your shoulders, down to the tips of your fingers. Allowing your awareness to drop down through that big, beautiful, courageous heart. Down through your rib cage and the space above your belly button and the space below. Down to the space of your hips and your pelvic bowl. Down to the space of your thighs and your knees. Down through the space of your calves, ankles, feet, toes, and all the way back to this present moment, wherever you are, wherever in time you are, wherever in your space you are. And sometimes people find it helpful to sort of tap the edges of their body to make sure that they come back, because we don't stay in trance land forever. We do come back. We can go back and visit these places that we've been, but we must come back because we have things to do and possibly cars to drive. So we want to come back to our bodies. Sometimes folks like to say their name out loud a few times to make sure that they're all the way back, because when you notice you can't say your name, you're not quite back. So if you're not feeling quite back, maybe you get a sip of water, maybe move your body, shake it out a little bit. And the way I found that it's very easy to bring people back is to try to do some arithmetic in your head. So what's 2 times 4? What's 9 divided by 3? Things like that. Maybe you think about the last meal that you ate. What did you eat? So anything that's really concrete, present moment, not something that's traveling. So for folks who like to write things down, this is a great time to do that. If you're watching this later, you can pause and, take a few moments to do that. I like to capture trances as quickly as possible. And also I noticed that sometimes trances, for me, the meaning or the point of it will often come a few days later. It'll sort of make sense in the context of something else. So if you don't quite understand what the heck just happened, that's normal, or at least it is for me. So another thing with trances is that there is no wrong way. Whatever you got out of it, there's something to it. So, trust that. Trust that this was an experience meant just for you, and that it's perfect and right and offers something. And often in classes, I will have folks, sort of share their experiences if they want to. So, I would say that if you have a beloved that might be interested in it, you might want to share, your experience with them. That's fantastic. If you would like to reach out to me and share your experience, that's great. That's fantastic. I'd love to hear it. I'm always curious about where folks go off to. So we have a little bit of time, so I'm just going to chat just for a little bit longer, and then we will close up and we will be done with this Aphrodite experience for now. I will warn, I don't know if warn's the right word, but I'll say warn. I will warn you that she is, when she wants to be in a relationship with you, at least from my experience, she can be very pushy. And so she really wants a lot of space, a lot of attention, a lot of altars, a lot of offerings and things like that. And when you're in the beginning of a relationship, that's kind of nice. So why not? I say go for it. If you have the means, obviously. She's also very open to the gifts that you have. I've written notes to her. I have found rose petals when I've been on walks, and I've placed them on my altar. Yeah, she loves beautiful things. And so whatever that means to you, not everybody has the same definition of that. So those are some things. She can come quite strongly, and I always say to folks, sort of like when I was talking about aspecting that, body trumps spirit, all these relationships are consensual. If she's coming on a little too strong, you can say, hey, a little strong, give me a couple days. And I believe that that's part of it. Navigating what's right for you in the relationship too. So I thought maybe I would just wrap up with a little bit of, I am an author, I did write books, so I thought I would, say another little bits about it. So Aphrodite does come out in, I think it's September 1st, although I see some people have it already, so I have no idea. So this is a book that does have some sort of historical background. It talks about a couple of the stories that she shows up in and sort of my take on that and my interpretations. There's a big section on building relationship, and also, I want to make sure that I say this right, working with different aspects of Aphrodite. One of the things I also strove for in this book was to make sure that it wasn't just from the heteronormative sort of perspective that, like I said in the beginning, I'm not sure gods are gendered, but, so I really tried to make sure that it wasn't just a heteronormative sort of thing. So hopefully that is more open for folks, because that's what I believe. And also, this book is already out. This is Reclaiming Witchcraft. It is a book on sort of the things that it would be really helpful for you to know about reclaiming before you sort of got into it. And often these were the things, a lot of the things were things that I didn't learn until I was actually part of, different groups, or I was in leadership or things like that. And I think it could be helpful to know how we're sort of structured, know kind of what's going on in our tradition, at least in this moment, because we are evolving. Right after this book was set for press, we had a global gathering of reclaiming witches in which we dismantled a few things and started conversations about things that will probably shift and change that are already in the book. So that book is, I don't want to say it's out of date, but it definitely has some things in it that I would have written differently if I'd been to that gathering before I wrote it. So those are that. And then if you're really interested, I have another book coming out in November. It is Practically Pagan, an Alternative Guide to Health and Well-Being. So this is a longer book that is about sort of really taking care of that beautiful body of yours and how can we do that and add a little magic to it. So I think that's fun. So for folks who are interested in learning more about me or any of these books, I have a website. It is www.irisanya.com. And that is a place where I actually have a lot of online classes, because online classes is where it's at right now, and probably for a while, and I'm actually really enjoying it. There's a lot of great magic to be made over the internet. And so if you want to sign up for any of those, that's great. If you want to reach out and ask more questions, that's great. I'm hoping to do something on Aphrodite in the next year. I had planned on doing something, and then COVID happened. So hopefully I will come back to that. It might just be in an online space this time. So definitely want to do that. And so I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate that you spent a little portion of your day or night with me. And I hope that it was helpful, inspirational, maybe the beginning of a beautiful relationship. So I will end with just kind of how I ended the book, because I feel like that would be a great way to sort of celebrate her. The beauty of Aphrodite comes not from her skin or the way flowers arose when she stepped on the shore. The wonder of Aphrodite comes from the presence she offers, the changing ways to look at the way a heart beats and who it beats for. With all her aspects and stories, she continues to offer insights and opportunities to know her and to know ourselves better. For what is this world without love? How can we live without love? If we can continuously meet her and meet the way she shows up, unapologetically, we may too be able to step forward from our own ocean onto the shore of a fuller, richer life. I imagine that if you are here right now, you have already heard her call. I imagine she has already tapped on your shoulder or whispered in your ear that you need to listen to her. And if you're still not sure, I invite you to take a seashell, one that's big enough to cover your ear, and listen to the ocean sounds. Allow yourself to deepen into the possibility that she is already here. She is already waiting for you. May she watch over your heart. May she bless your relationships. May she continue to offer you peace, solace, and laughter. Blessed be. Thank you so much. This has been lovely, and I hope to hear from you.